Martinique is an island located in the eastern Caribbean Sea. It is an overseas department and region of France. The cultural influences on the island are a mix of African, French, Caribbean, and indigenous cultures, contributing to a vibrant and unique local identity. The island is known for its beautiful landscapes, including lush rainforests, volcanic mountains, and picturesque beaches. Mount Pelée, an active volcano, is one of the prominent natural features on the island, with the bustling city of Saint-Pierre just 3 miles away, known as the cultural capital city of Martinique. The volcano had already erupted twice, in 1792 and 1851, since Europeans had arrived on the island. But both eruptions were small, and only resulted in ash being thrown out of the volcano. In 1902, the volcano would show the world a new kind of eruption, with devastating consequences. In early 1902, Mount Pelée began to awaken, with vents starting to appear on the summit, spewing volcanic gases out of the mountainside. But for the city of Saint-Pierre, it began on the 23rd of April, when the volcano went through a series of explosive eruptions, causing a massive plume of smoke and ash to shoot out of the volcano. In the following days, ash fell on the city so heavily that it blocked out the sun, and the volcanic activity had caused mudslides that destroyed plantations and even killed some people. Despite this, the locals did not take it seriously and paid little attention to these warning signs, letting their children play in the ash as if it were snow. But as the days passed, the ash thickened to uncomfortable levels. People were starting to struggle to breathe, and animals began dying. Louis Mattei, the governor of the town, was reluctant to organize any kind of evacuation efforts. With the upcoming elections in just a few days' time, Louis knew that if evacuations were to happen, he would probably lose the election, since all of his voters were wealthier and could afford travel off of the island. With this in mind, he manipulated the local newspaper of Saint-Pierre, with the headlines assuring everyone that the ash was only temporary and the volcano would soon become dormant again. This was a complete lie. The American consul, Thomas Prentice, attempted to send a telegraph to Washington, notifying them of the need for an evacuation, but Mattei, the governor, blocked it from being sent and chastised him for spreading alarm abroad and creating a state of false fear. The volcano continued to rumble, its peak glowing red with the building magma. Rivers in the valleys below overflowed and became violent, dragging some unfortunate souls out to sea, and reports started to come in about people choking to death on the ash. Finally, Mattei did order a commission to inspect the volcano, but without even examining the volcano, the commission just assured everyone that there was no danger from the ash or lava, and that there is nothing in the activity of Pelée that warrants an evacuation. The next warning sign, and possibly the most ominous, was when large amounts of centipedes, insects, and snakes poured down from the mountain as they instinctively fled from what was to come. Amidst this chaos was a man named Ludger Syllabus, who was born on the island and worked as a common labourer in the city of Saint-Pierre. Ludger had a reputation in the city for getting into trouble. He was often arrested for getting into pub brawls and street fights, and even starting riots. And on the evening of May the 7th, 1902, Ludger Syllabus was living up to that reputation. He had got involved in a drunken street fight with another man. The authorities arrested Ludger, and he was ordered to be put into solitary confinement and was locked in a tiny cell with no windows and only a narrow grate at the bottom of the door. With the bustling town outside now a distant noise and just a small ray of light shining through the grate, Ludger lay down in his cell, ready for a night of solitary confinement. On the next morning, at around 6 a.m, the upper mountainside of Mount Pelée tore open with a deafening explosion, causing a black cloud to shoot out from the volcano, creating a pyroclastic flow. The pyroclastic flow raced down straight towards the city, travelling at over 100 miles per hour. It reached Saint-Pierre in under 2 minutes, giving no time at all for anyone to escape the deadly cloud. Consisting of superheated gases and fine volcanic debris with searing temperatures of over 1000 degrees Celsius, the cloud tore through the city, destroying almost every building, and almost the entire population was burned or suffocated. The pyroclastic flow advanced along the surface of the sea, hitting several ships at anchor, including one ship whose cargo of potassium nitrate caught fire, destroying its structure and incinerating its passengers. A French vessel arriving on the scene witnessed the annihilation of the city. The radio operator sent an urgent message to Fort de France. Saint-Pierre, destroyed by eruption of Pelée, send all possible help. Inside Ludger's cell, the faint rays of light that shone through the grate on his door vanished, and he was plunged into complete darkness. The sound was unimaginable, as if everything around him were being torn apart. Ludger began slamming on the door to be let out, but was instantly met with intense heat coming from the door. In a desperate attempt to stop the hot smoke from entering his cell, Ludger tore off his shirt, urinated on it, and wedged it in between the small grate on his cell door, hoping it would stop the hot smoke from entering his cell. Despite these efforts, Ludger's cell got intensely hot, and he suffered horrible burns. Luckily, the heat didn't last, and the temperature in the cell began to cool. Outside of the bomb-proof cell was a grim scene. The still hot and dark landscape was one of another world. The debris of a completely ruined city and the endless piles of charred remains smothered in a thick coat of ash. Rescue attempts were made, but the effort was mostly futile, as the death toll became horrifyingly obvious upon entering the city. It was estimated that a staggering 30,000 people died in the pyroclastic flow. 4 days after the eruption, a rescue team heard Ludger's cries from the rubble of the prison. With Ludger's cell being the only part intact, they managed to get him out, and although badly burned, Ludger would make a full recovery, and would even go on to become somewhat of a celebrity by telling his story of being one of the few survivors of Saint-Pierre. The pyroclastic flows had destroyed everything in a 10-kilometer radius of the volcano. It was unlike any other volcanic eruption that had been studied. Eruptions like this are now called Palean eruptions. Unfortunately, Mount Pelée was still not finished. Less than a fortnight after this catastrophic event, the volcano would again erupt, killing another 2,000, many of which had come as rescuers trying to aid from the previous eruption. It would continue to erupt, leading to more tragedies until it finally went dormant again in 1905. The eruption of Mount Pelée was the worst volcanic disaster of the 20th century, and the city of Saint-Pierre would never fully recover. The desire to understand the cause of this eruption and to predict future events inspired the birth of volcanology as a modern science. So at least we can find solace knowing that the lessons learned from this tragedy continue to contribute to the safety and protection of future generations.